Good afternoon, everyone. I don't know whether we need the microphone. Can you hear me? You can hear me. It's my pleasure to introduce to you today Professor Shafi Anwar from Indonesia, who's going to speak about Islam and Indonesian attitudes towards the United States. Professor Anwar has been a Ford visiting scholar at the Brookings Institution for the past months and has actually just completed a monograph on this topic that he will present here today that will be published next year. Some of you will know Shafi Anwar from his activism in Indonesia. He was one of the major newspaper editors towards the late Suharto years. First of Panci Masyarakat from 86 to 1988, and later of the newspaper Umat from 95 to 1999. He then, during the democratic consolidation era of Indonesia, became a major civil society leader, founded the Institute for ICIP, which stands for International Center for Islamic Pluralism in Indonesia, which I personally know from my field research in the country, and one can hardly overestimate the contribution that the center has made towards more progressive Pesantren education. Pesantren are the Islamic boarding schools in Indonesia, and ICIP Center has had a major civil society initiative for redesigning the religious curriculum in coordination and in cooperation with the Islamic boarding schools in the country. ICIP also is very distinguished through its training programs with journalists. So part of ICIP's programs include visiting programs for journalists to the Pesantren community to learn more about the specificity of religious education and to report on that not only in Indonesia but in wider Southeast Asia. Some of you may also know Professor Anwar through his recent publications. In the recent volume by Srinivasan from Yale University, The Future of Islam, he contributed the chapter Political Thought, the contest between radical conservative Islam and progressive liberal Islam in post-Suharto Indonesia. He also just told me that he finished the editing of a volume on the political thought of Gusdur, of Abdurrahman Wahid, the first post-Suharto democratic president after Habibie during the transition era. That will be published in 7 languages, and we await that publication very eagerly. That should be early next year. Finally, I should also mention that Professor Anwar, since December 2006, has been selected as one of the 5 independent experts by the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, experts on the Asian states. And in that regard, Professor Anwar has been discussing in Geneva particular topics about not only human rights in Southeast Asia, but particularly also with regard to Malaysia and Indonesia as the 2 Muslim-majority countries in the region. So without further ado, I will give Professor Anwar the word and mention again how great of an honor it is for us to have you here
today. My voice is first.
It's working.
Okay? Okay, thank you. Well, thank you, Miriam. Miriam is my good friend and a good colleague, and he already visited Indonesia, and I think he knows everything about Indonesia. It is a great honor for me to be here with you all, and of course, in this regard, allow me to express my gratitude and thankful to the organizer, was Woodrow Wilson School of Public and International Affairs, the Program of Religion, Diplomacy and International Relations, and Liechtenstein Institute of Self-Determination, Princeton University. To begin with, I would like to define myself as activist, as what I call as a friend of America. Whether you agree or not, this is what I have experienced in my life. Why? Because when I was a kid, living far away from Jakarta, at a small village in Kudus, small town in Central Java, I used to hear Voice of America. That's my, own experience and first engagement of, my experience with regard to the following studies about America itself. And currently, of course, as a former Fulbrighter, I got two-time Fulbrighter. I am so happy because, I have a lot of opportunity to visit United States of America. Uh, you know, okay. Yeah. Oh, what's no? It's proper mechanical or sorry. Breakfast. Not the first. Yeah, this was okay. Uh, well, about those who do not well informed about Indonesia, I would suggest that Indonesia is, you have already known, is predominantly Muslim country, but it is definitely not an Islamic state. Our state ideology is, we call Pancasila, five principles, and then in this regard, we strongly believe in five principles, believe in one supreme God, humanity, unity of Indonesia, democracy, social justice, and you have already known the total population of Indonesia is 220 million. So Indonesia has became already become the, the largest Muslim country in the world. And Indonesia is mostly associated with Sunni tradition, and the majority of Indonesian people associated with Shafi'i school of thought, or Mazhab Shafi'i. There is also Shiite group in Indonesia, but the number is quite limited, and they do not have political power. With regard to the situation in Indonesia, I would suggest that, generally speaking, there are two approaches in understanding political Islam in Indonesia. The first, what I call legal and formal approach on political Islam, with regard to the idea of combination, especially in the paradigm related to religion or deen, life and state. Deen, religion, life, dunya, state, daulah. And in this regard, Islamic law and politics, or Sharia wa Siyasa, become the center of the idea itself. So, in this regard, they strongly believe what I call as Islamic totalism. On the other side, we have, of course, from my own perspective, that we call a substantive approach on political Islam, which refer to the idea that the basic principle of political Islam is related to Islamic ethics, or in Arabic word, akhlaq. And core idea of Islamic ethics, what we call as maqasid al-sharia, or justice. And in this regard, the main purpose of Sharia, maqasid al-sharia, is al-adalah, or justice. And of course, if we adopt, we accommodate, and we receive the idea of Islamic ethics with regard to upholding the spirit of justice, we will, of course, accept the idea of pluralism, tolerance, equality, freedom, democracy, etc. You have already known those concepts derived from the Western concept, and in a part of them, of course, become what we call as American values. So, in this regard, whether the concept itself from the West, the East, the North, etc., it doesn't matter for us as proponent of substantive approach of political Islam, because as long as those concepts refer to the idea of justice, establishing, upholding justice, that's we will receive as, Islamic ethics, and do not have any objection related to that kind of concept. Political Islam, democracy, and post-Soeharto Indonesia. You have already known that, especially Soeharto, during his presidency, developed what we call as politics of accommodation. This is a politic which regard to accommodate the Muslim political aspiration. And in this regard, Soeharto developed and established important institutions such as Association of Indonesian Muslim Intellectual, Islamic Bank, Islamic Insurance, etc. So this is what we call as accommodation of Suharto during the period of his presidency, especially the last 10 years of his presidency. Why I said like this? Because previously he was so authoritarian and of course was very, very repressive toward Islam. So when in 1990 he established ICMI, ICMI, we call Association of Indonesian Muslim Intellectual. So and then followed by establishing, Islamic Bank, Islamic Insurance. It seemed to us that this is political accommodation. To a certain level, this kind of movement is related to the way he thinks about the prospect of Islam, especially because he considers that Islam will be supporting his presidency, because at that time he would like to prolong his presidency. And then we face the reality that finally, we face Indonesia's multi-dimensional crisis, which regard to the economic turbulence, especially in 1997, followed by the collapse of Suharto regime. And then after that, we see the reality, the rise of radical conservative Islam groups and their agenda for imposing Sharia under the administration of Habibie, former President Wahid, and Megawati. So the agenda of imposing Sharia actually began after the collapse of Suharto regime. Why? Because at the time, under the Suharto regime, it was almost impossible for them to promote Sharia law, because Suharto is very committed to Pancasila, and of course will reject Sharia. If you see the reality that radical conservative Islam movement in Indonesia, Majelis Mujahidin, Laskar Jihad, Islamic Development Front, Hizbut Tahrir, Ikhwan Muslimin, etc. Those names, is quite strange for Indonesian, people. Why? Those names derive from the idea of, a radical movement, a Salafi movement, maybe radical Salafi movement in the Middle East, and to be transformed to Indonesia. We have, of course, a radical Islamic movement in the past, Darul Islam, etc., and then Islamic rebellions in Indonesia, in West Java. But those names, if you see Ikhwan Muslimin, of course, the idea itself the same as Ikhwan Muslimin in Middle East, especially in Egypt, and Laskar Jundullah, etc. This is the kind of Hizbut Tahrir. The problem lies in the fact that the rise of radical Islam in Indonesia related to what I call the first structural crisis and cultural crisis. Structural crisis, with regard to the situation in Indonesia, is faced by Indonesia: weak state, lack of law enforcement, economic turbulence, and hatred toward the U.S. foreign policy. Not only disagree, but hatred toward U.S. foreign policy. And then cultural crisis, Islamic textual civilization. With regard to the situation when text is perceived as only a text, without understanding the historical context, the sociological context of the text, so becoming literal understanding of the Quran itself. For instance, the meaning of jihad. From the very beginning, the meaning of jihad in Islamic terminology, hard struggle. And the most important jihad is jihad, for yourself. And based on Islamic conceptual history, it's only related to what I call defensive jihad, not offensive jihad. Suicide bombing, there is no concept of suicide bombing in Islamic law, as far as I know. Because suicide is definitely prohibited by Islamic law, and a big sin. And misreading on modernization and globalization, crisis of identity, and strong belief in conspiracy theory. And you know that conspiracy theory is paranoia within reason. It's very difficult to prove conspiracy theory, but the fact is that they strongly believe that the U.S., the West, has certain agenda, hidden agenda to destroy Islamic civilization. And the process we just discussed with Miriam, ideologization. the word from Pasam TV, I think, ideologization of the crisis, structural and cultural, and then create strict legal exclusive of Sharia minded. In this regard, I myself, I'm not anti-Sharia, frankly speaking. But the problem is that what kind of Sharia we perceive, what kind of Sharia we implement, whether that kind related to inclusive Sharia, democratic Sharia, plural Sharia, or strict legal exclusive Sharia. I totally disagree with strict legal exclusive Sharia. And, there's controversy in Indonesia. This is the characteristic of radical conservative Islam in Indonesia, from Sharia mindset to Sharia minded. Anti-pluralism, create Dar al-Haq and Dar al-Islam, minna minhum, not respect to the others, gender biases, domestication of women, committed to anti-Americanism. This is my, field research actually. They strongly, hatred toward the U.S. Because of the situation faced by Indonesian people, especially Muslim people in Indonesia, certain young generation finally decided to, establish the so-called, this debatable Islam, the word progressive liberal Islam. Although I myself do not, convenient with the word liberal, but this is what's the name. The substance I do agree, but the way, especially and then the word itself is create a lot of controversy. But forget about it. We have Paramadina, LKIS, Lapas Dam Emun, and then White Institute, All My Organization, etc., which is committed to develop this kind of agenda, the construction of strict legal and exclusive Sharia, promotion of pluralism, strongly support American values. Because we consider the American values quite good. Democracy, freedom, equality, tolerance, pluralism, according to the perspective of progressive liberal Islam, are compatible with the spirit of Islam. Yeah, we have activities, as Miriam taught us, that we have radio talk, broadcasted, and then conducting, a lot of seminar, international seminar, local seminar, and then, of course, in collaboration with American funding agencies such as Asia Foundation, Ford Foundation, European Commission, etc., publishing book. And then, most importantly, our program is, with regard to my organization, promoting education on pluralism and multiculturalism to pesantren or, madrasah. Why? This is because the situation in Indonesia is madrasah and pesantren, although not madrasah and pesantren engage or having connection with conservatism, radicalism, but the fact is that lack of understanding toward the human right, and mostly because they're limited access to the modern world, so they used to study more focus on the what we call Islamic classical text. I think my dear friend Michael Lavan can explain about this in this regard, but the fact is that there are a lot of pesantren, until now even, very, very, committed to engage with, we call in English language, kitab kuning, classical text, but, lack of understanding toward the modern world. The problem lies in the fact that we face, conflict and tension with the radical conservative Islam. Because this is the problem with, radical Islam, because they are able to reach the grassroots level. They have, their own publication, mouthpiece of radical conservative Islam, such as Sabili, and then, media dakwah, radio, etc., and able to reach the grassroots level. On the other side, the progressive liberal Islam mostly engage with, intellectual tradition, talking about deconstruction, hermeneutic, which is very, very, complicated to the people, and because of their limited understanding. But the fact is that this is my critical point as a participant observer of progressive liberal Islam, tend to be too elitist, tend to be too intellectual. Consequently, the grassroots people sometimes misunderstand about our concept. That's why since the last 3 years, I changed my policy and program by approaching pesantren, madrasah, by developing what I call such a moderate approach related to renewal of Islamic thinking, but also developing what we call as down-to-earth programs. Meaning that we approach the kiai, we approach the santri community in order to understand our program. At the first, of course, I was judged as CIA agent of the West, everything, and then they publish their magazine by putting my name and then former President Wahid with my dear colleagues as with the big banner cover story, enemies of Islam. This is the way they are, but I think I consider this the show must go on, so I just quiet and I do not respond to that kind of idea. Why? Because it takes a lot of time and wasting time. So we just do whatever we want, create a lot of program and approaching the grassroots people. And then you already know that in Indonesia, my dear friend, coordinator of liberal Islam, was sentenced to death, because we faced a death fatwa from conservative. The problem lies in the fact that, as I told you previously, that progressive liberal Islam previously in favor with American value, supporting war against terrorism, etc. However, after a long time, considered that this problem with the Bush administration in handling the war in Iraq and then in the Middle East, etc. They changed their mindset, become very critical to President Bush, especially in his handling policy. I just give you a sample. Ulil Absar Abdallah, coordinator of Progressive Liberal Islam. He's very famous because currently he's studying at Harvard University. But this is very critical point from Ulil. Let alone the U.S. is able to promote American model of democracy in the Middle East. What is happening right now is Washington's total value. The situation in Iraq is currently uncontrollable, and yet it has created the new priorities spreading in the region. Ulil blatantly expressed his feeling: I am proud of America as a nation and civilization, as a leading country which promote freedom values. However, I am fully disappointed by the hypocrisy of the U.S. government in solving the Middle East issue. And another founder of Progressive Liberal Islam, my dear friend, Lutfi Ashokani, wrote article in leading daily in Indonesia with the title "The Death of America's Rational Mind." Now I would like to turn to moderate Islam, which is very, very, important, the role as, representing the majority of Indonesian people, especially with regard to the role of the traditionalist group. Although the word traditionalist modernist is, what they call as a social category, and sometimes debatable. But just to make, to make easy to understand that, even the many scholars also use this kind of word as well. And you is Muhammadiyah, and you claim that to have 40 million, members. Muhammadiyah claims to have 30 million. And you, Ahlus Sunnah wal Jamaah, the follower of Muhammad, the social base of NU is pesantren. And then this is, just to make you sample how to. This is, this kind of magazine Sabri. Sabri is just the Koalisi Anti-Islam Serang Syariat. The Koalisi Anti-Islam Attack Syariat. That's addressed to me as well, because I strongly oppose Syariah Fisbailo. And then jaringan gereja investigate the church, network in Aceh. Paus tentang perang, menantang perang. Paus challenge the war. It's provocative. This is the picture of the radical Islam. And this is our, our activities. how to counter. Why we conducted this kind of activities? Why? Because to a certain level, we hope that Muhammadiyah will be able, or Nahdlatul Ulama will be able to counter the idea of radical conservative. But the fact is that sometimes Muhammadiyah and Nahdlatul Ulama, too much involved in politics, running for presidency, running for vice presidency, running for politics, etc. So they neglect that kind of challenge. That's why we decided to challenge them, to anticipate by creating a lot of program. This is a seminar, and this is interfaith dialogue. Yeah, we promote interfaith dialogue. We are committed to promote interfaith dialogue, to promote, mutual understanding among religious followers. And this program is quite strong to be done by, moderate. And this is just to show you that even from, Islamic leader from Pakistan, from India, from Bangladesh, visit us with the support of the Asia Foundation. They learn from us how to teach madrasah, how to teach, Muslim community. They are related to education and pluralism and multiculturalism, and they brought our curricula, etc. As you have already know that madrasah and border of Pakistan and Afghanistan used to be influenced by, Wahhabism, and then of course quite radical, quite black and white perspective, and they learn from us how to adjust this way. And now UK, United Kingdom, also sent their imams to Indonesia, including to visit our institution as well. To a lot of, especially from the Western government, from Finland, from visit us to make a program related to how to train imam, because this is problem with I think in the Western countries, problem with especially Muslim, how to adopt the secular society, how they deal with identity, etc. But of course, in this regard, our experience with regard to the situation in Indonesia is how to reduce radicalism, how to make people much more moderate in understanding the concept, in understanding the paradigm of Islamic teaching. This seminar. I continue again. This is just a sample. Of course, beside Nahdlatul Ulama, we have Muhammadiyah, and then Muhammadiyah is very concerned about Amar Ma'ruf Nahi Munkar. And then, of course, Muhammadiyah, including Nahdlatul Ulama, reject radicalism and condemn terrorism. They reject, they condemn. But the problem is that condemning or rejecting are not enough to fight against radicalism. But the fact is that I do agree, and then in this regard, frankly speaking, they are committed. They are not committed to anti-Americanism. Muhammadiyah does not support Sharia. Critic of moderate Muslims to US, Hasyim Muzadi and Bin Samsudin, of course, they have a political mindset and political concern, but of course they are disappointed with the Bush administration, but they do not support anti-Americanism. In fact, moderate Muslims respect US as great nation, superpower, center of knowledge and technology, generally speaking. Now I would like to talk about anti-Americanism in Indonesia. If you read, for instance, American media or watch TV, sometimes as what they call as untrue, because sometimes they perceive that Indonesia is the hotbed of radicalism or terrorism because of the activities done by the radical Islam. That's not true. And anti-Americanism, relatively few in Indonesia. Only 1.5% Indonesian people have carried demonstration opposing America. This is based on a study done by Indonesian Circle Institute. Only 2 of every 100 Indonesians have often conducted demonstration anti-Americanism. And then it's often exaggerated by the media. Sometimes local media, Indonesian media, tend to provoke the situation that there are big demonstrations against America, etc. I just call this the number, total number is only, 1 or 2,000, of roughly 10,000. But compared to Muhammadiyah and Nahdlatul Ulama, they have 75 million. And frankly speaking, if I count the number of radical Islam, no more than 15,000. No more than 50,000. All. Okay? So I would suggest that it is too small to make claim that Indonesian society is anti-America. I disagree that Indonesia is defined as anti-America. No. I just would like to skip the U.S.-Indonesia relationship. From G to G relationship, there is no problem at all. Because our government, and President Bush 2 times visited Indonesia and declared Indonesia as a friend of America, and we are pleased with the development of democracy, etc., etc. That's very typical of Mr. Bush, and I did believe that kind of idea is also to be shared by the society. Why? Because when he visited Indonesia the second time, last year, there was a great demonstration against President Bush. That's the problem, actually. And President SBY, our president, we are pleased with our relationship. Indonesian ambassador to US, I just interviewed, we are pleased. US State Department, I interviewed them. Frankly, under President SBY, we have the best bilateral relationship. No problem at all in terms of G to G. Well, but, the S to S, society to society. Ordinary Indonesian people have limited information concerning US politics. They do not know the success story of American Muslim, published by Newsweek several months ago. Success story of, a Muslim. I show to them that this is America. You could not generalize, And ordinary generation use American Idol, which has been produced by Indonesian Idol. If you have American Idol, we have Indonesian Idol, okay? Love McDonald and Kentucky Fried Chicken. Follow the story of celebrities such as Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, Britney Spears, Jason Timberlake, Carrie Underwood. Need to have better understanding. Why? Because this is the typical, I listen, say, the language of ordinary people. But they do not understand that Barack Obama, for instance, ever lived in Indonesia, and of course the success story of Indonesian Muslim reported by Newsweek, because they do not read Newsweek. They just read, sometimes Fox, sometimes CNN, and of course, the problem is that sometimes the issue is capitalized by the radical conservative Islam that the U.S. has taken agenda to destroy Islamic civilization. This is the problem, actually. So, the future of Indonesian relationship. This is very important. Why I just quote Farid Zakaria, not from me. America will have to move on and restore its place in the world. To do this, we must first tackle the consequence of the current U.S. foreign policy of fear, having spoke ourselves into believing that we have no option but to act fast, alone, unilaterally, and preemptively. We have managed in 6 years to destroy decades of international goodwill, alienate allies, embolden enemies, and yet solve only a few major international problems we face. The problem today is not that America is too strong, but that it is seen as too arrogant, uncaring, and insensitive. Countries around the world believe that the United States, obsessed with its own nation of terrorism, has stopped listening to the rest of the world. That's Farid Zakaria, not me, and published by Newsweek. Problem is that not only the policy itself, but public diplomacy, very big, unfortunately. Public diplomacy is quite big, and of course it's related to funding, but also related to professionalism. I conducted research on that, but unfortunately the research is not so good. Why? Because tend to neglect, tend to undermine the role of public diplomacy. Okay? And Indonesian people, according to Pew Global Project attitude, also now is declining in their response and trust in the United States of America. And not only Indonesia, but also shared by people in the world. From especially, let me check this one. Sorry. Yeah, very seriously because even many countries, based on the result of Pew Global Research, it's quite clear that their response, their support to Indonesia to America is declining. The war against terrorism. This is my point. This is very important for US, of course. My critical point to US is that, in terms of conducting war against terrorism, they mostly focus on, capture the leader of Al Qaeda, the elite of Jamaah Islamiyah, and then related to only security approach. But we have to remember, war against terrorism is related to war of ideas. You could not defeat terrorism without understanding the way the terrorists think about you, about America, etc. This is problem with paradigm. It's problem with, perspective. So, my suggestion in this regard is that even, Stephen von Evera, the U.S. expert on terrorism, strongly criticized the way the President Bush administration conducting war against terrorism, because limited understanding about the mindset of the terrorism, how the terrorist is easily recruiting the constituent, their constituent, follower, etc. Just give you example, in majority Muslim countries, the popularity, the image of US declining as well. And shared by, Canada, 60%, Argentina, 87%, Venezuela, 81%, of course, because of Hugo Chavez, France, etc. Just to show to you all that this is problem with US image in the world. I would suggest that in terms of building anti-terror coalition, which is very important for me and for, I think, all the Muslim people, because terrorism is enemies of human being. So to develop, how to understand the mindset, the strategy of terrorists in the world. This is very, very important. And Washington so far create a lot of, problem, because the limited understanding to what the way the terrorists think, the way the terrorists act. And last, I would like to explain to end my presentation is that, in terms of G2G, there is no problem. And our president, as well as White, has a good relation with the US. And of course, based on the, my interview with the State Department, with, White House staff, etc., they are pleased with Yudhoyono. Why? Because Yudhoyono, not only because understand very well about American politics, but also Yudhoyono was graduated from American Army education in Leavenworth, Kansas. And so far so good, and administration committed to fight against terrorism, and of course there is a good prospect, G2G, but S to S different. So my policy to end my speak is that U.S. policy to embrace moderate Muslim. So far, U.S. have a good relation with moderate Muslim is quite good. And the US must continue to support progressive liberal Islam. Not because I am from the perspective of progressive liberal Islam, because progressive liberal Islam is the only alternative to fight against, terrorism, radicalism, etc., with a brave spirit and, of course, activities. We could not rely on moderate Islam, because sometimes we could not rely, specifically on moderate Islam, because sometimes they tend to be what I call as tend to be polite. Sometimes they have to consider their constituent, etc. And reopen American Cultural Center. This is very, very important and uses. Why? Because previously, based on my own experience, the role of American Cultural Center is quite important. I myself got 2 times Fulbright because I learned so much from American culture. And then uses, the role of uses in disseminating the issue of American issue, etc. Unfortunately, already closed. And yesterday, I challenged the people from State Department. Why do you not reopen again American Cultural Center? It is very important. You just open American Cultural Center in Korea, and then in Morocco, Indonesia is quite important. The role and position of Indonesia. Why don't you reopen again? And as a former journalist, I used to, to get, say information from USIS already closed now. That's why the war against terrorism, the image of U.S. declining. Why? Because lack of information about U.S. Okay, and then developing better strategy towards the ideal group, and then combating terrorism by idea, mission, and action building anti-terror coalition. This is my recommendation, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Mas Shafee. About 40 minutes or so questions. Why don't
things you said was a way in which that Americans could support progressive liberal
Yes.
Islam in Indonesia was to reopen American cultural centers.
Yes.
What are some other ways that they,
Excuse me?
some other practical ways, things like
Okay,
American cultural centers, what are other ways you see that they could openly show that they're supporting progressive
Yeah,
liberal?
of course. This is if America support progressive liberal Islam, we already received the support. But my what I would say is that continue support progressive liberal Islam. Of course, not only to State Department but also to funding agency, port coalition, etc. It's okay, but in this regard, especially because we face the reality that especially ordinary people need, what I call as for instance, this is from my subjective, of course, need institutions such as American culture and then uses. Currently, the State Department, they have program, namely, American Core at the university. But who come to the university? On the intellectual like us, only intellectual, student, etc. What we need is how to improve the knowledge, the information about America, from the U.S. State Department, and it is important to disseminate information about America to the ordinary people, to the layman people. This is the best alternative. Unfortunately, it's already closed. And according to the State Department people, it's because of funding, etc. How to fight against? How do you will win? How will you, win to fight against terrorism? If you are unable to counter propaganda of radicalism, by providing the layman people, the ordinary people to get information. Okay. Yes, please.
Thank you for coming to speak to us today. My question is about something you didn't really discuss, but I was wondering, what effect did U.S. humanitarian relief in the aftermath of the tsunami have on Indonesia?
It's very, very important. Especially after the tsunami, and it's very good. Indonesian people were much impressed with the U.S. action, especially humanitarian action done in Aceh and any other natural disaster area. And still that especially the impression of the Aceh people increased significantly, and the image of America at the time compared to, because the tsunami is actually in 2004, right? And 2005, the Indonesian Historical Institute conducted a research, and the image of America, jumped. So up and down actually, but with the situation in Abu Ghraib, and then with the situation in Guantanamo, and what they call as lack of service done by U.S. so-called fundamentalist group, etc., create a lot of problems. So up and down. But I strongly believe, as a friend of America, as a activist, America, will be able to lead the world, because I strongly believe that America is a great nation, and then center of knowledge like Princeton and 18 from the 18 university from the world, come from America. I mean, only 20 university in the world, 20 leading university in the world, 18 from America. That's why I would suggest America's center of knowledge, and then could be, America, is a Greek nation with great what they call a civilization. This is very, very important because you have everything in this. America, Greek nation, Greek people, and I, as an Indonesian Muslim, who learn American history, I like reading, for instance, Thomas Jefferson, and which must impress for me, especially understanding religious freedom, and then Benjamin Franklin, where Franklin Delano Roosevelt, very great leader, etc., and give significant impact to the world history. That's why I believe that if America can, conduct a good foreign policy, and especially in the Muslim world, I will improve significantly. You need the Muslim world. You cannot neglect the Muslim world. This is very, very important. And of course, in your idea and the program related to war and terrorism, you need support from the Muslim world. Without the support of the Muslim world, you will fail to fight against terrorism. Thank you.
The one is Egypt itself has received funding from the European Union, from
Yes.
the ERA Foundation,
Yeah.
from a variety of Western donors, and sometimes it's hard to justify that in public to the Indonesian community. And I wonder how would you recommend ways of, on the one hand, accepting money from Western donors, but at the same time not putting oneself into the risk of being accused of acting in the interest of Western powers and against one's own national interest? That is one question. The other one is, you showed us the pictures of the visiting programs of ulama from Pakistan, from Bangladesh, and I think because Indonesia is not only the largest Muslim majority country, but also one of the few democratizing Muslim majority countries, it could really be a leader in the Muslim world with regard to democratic politics. At the same time, of course, from the viewpoint of the Middle East, Indonesian Islam is often considered not as authentic as Arab Islam. And my question is, how do you get around that? So on the one hand, especially through these visiting programs, you can show a lot about what democratic compatible Byzantine education looks like, a madrasa education.
Yes.
But at the same time, how would you convince religious leaders from the Middle East, especially from the Arab countries, that this is also an authentic way of representing religion?
It's a very good question, I think. The first is how to avoid, especially, suspicion, and then say hatred to us. As I told you previously, we are judged as an agent of the West, agent of America, etc. The first strategy is that, I do not care for that. Okay? Meaning that, they're always, it's very typical for them to judge us as agent of America. So I just quiet and not to respond. If we respond, publicly, this is will create, what I call retaliation. They will blame us as and wasting time. So just work silently and then actively to promote our programs. That's the first strategy. The second strategy is that, this is quite important to inform you. We also send letter to the Middle East, Middle East embassies in Jakarta to inform them about us. Unfortunately, they did not respond. Despite the fact our program related to pesantren, because they judge us as usual agent of America, we do not care. We always approach them to invite them to come to our program. So far, because after a long time, 3 years, we were visited by embassy from Kuwait, from Egypt, and from Iran. Iran is quite active to to visit our program. I don't know exactly, although they're anti-Americanism, but they are familiar with the program and so. And they did not, condemn us as agent of America. This from Iran actually. And the third process that I myself used to approach what I call personal approach, using personal approach to the pesantren community, to the people. So just give you a sample. When we conducted program of pesantren and madrasah, we were put as enemy of Islam by radical Islam. They published the magazine, etc. And by delay, known by the people. But my strategy is to approach the guy, the leader, the charismatic ulama, to explain this is our program, this is what you have seen so far. So I do not mean to, for instance, the word pluralism. My strategy is that it's about pluralism. For instance, pluralism, is why? Because in 2005, the Indonesian Ulama Council declared that pluralism, secularism, and liberalism are harmful, and prohibited, because according to them is that kind of idea, destroying Islam and haram according to them. But of course we are very difficult position at the time. But I explained to the ulama that what we mean with pluralism is not making similarity of religious value. Pluralism is a value that distinguishes, that our position is different with the other, but we respect the others. We committed to develop related to interfaith dialogue, and in this regard, we never ever conducted what we call as making similarities of religious faith. We just consider that, lakum dinukum waliyadin, and of course, the truth belongs to us, but the truth belongs to us is different on the interpretation of the others. But we have respect, and most importantly, because I told them that we, inherited the Abrahamic tradition, Abrahamic religion. So this is quite clear and supported by classical text. This is our strategy, Miriam, to show to them that nothing to do with pluralism, with their mindset that we just copy and pass from the Western concept. Even I told them that from the very beginning, Islam is very much concerned with pluralism. In Abu Surat 117. Okay, and then the second point is what, of course, as usual, there's problem with, our fellow brother Muslim from Middle East, which regarding their suspicion and then critical point of Indonesia. And again, we do not consider this as very serious, what I call a critical point. The fact is that we have done what I would suggest, or would claim that's much better. Why? Because according to the survey done by Freedom House, in terms of democracy, in the Middle East, democracy in the Middle East is pseudo-democracy. According to research done by Freedom House, 2001 until 2005, there was democracy deficit in the Middle East. Compared to Indonesia, internationally recognized that Indonesia is a democratic Muslim country. So we are proud of that area. We are proud of that. Very proud of that. Why? Because international community body, acknowledge us as pioneer of democratization in the Muslim world. Yes, and then we are still committed with moderate perspective and strongly believe that democracy is compatible with spirit of Islam. Human rights is compatible, pluralism compatible.
Just mentioning that you in one of the first slides you said various American values, which were freedom.
Yes.
And I wonder, do you start with those being American values, or do you start those being Islamic values?
Of course, I
just as far as your work
yes,
in Indonesia,
yes.
and how you're. I would say those are not
yes.
American values; those
yes.
are values.
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious, just seeing the presentation I can imagine that being a sticking
It's
point.
very good question. As an Indonesian Muslim, of course, I would suggest that I'm committed to Islamic believers. As a Muslim, my faith. But in terms of, understanding the whole concept of democracy, the whole concept of human rights, the whole concept of, egalitarianism, etc. The Muslim world should learn from the West, frankly speaking. So in this regard, there is no need to say what makes us a judgment that we are lack of democratic and pluralism spirit compared to our fellow brother in the West. Because I think, generally speaking, the Muslim world, I would suggest two approaches in terms of democracy, three approaches. The first is what I call rejectionist. Rejectionist, any idea from the West, from America, from West, into democracy is against Islam. This rejection is good. The second point is that what we call as apologetic. Yes, we believe in democracy, we believe freedom, we believe equality, but we have Muslim concept, etc., and Muslim concepts much better, etc. And the third is what I call pragmatic. It's derived from the idea of Fali Nasr in this article in Journal of Democracy several years ago. That the majority of our Muslim world respect and even implement democracy without any further question, without any objection. Why? Because even Hamas, Palestine, etc., conducted general election. That's the Western country. Previously, they strongly rejected concept of democracy, but now they believe in democracy. Although maybe it's a strategy, even if I'm Muslim and it's also conducted democracy. Because they follow general election. A general election respect their mindset, their practical concept, but even radical concept tend to be more pragmatic in this regard. So they never to ask whether democracy compatible with Islam or not. That kind of issue to be deleted. They already practice democracy despite their agenda of improving, implementing Sharia, including Indonesia. Despite the fact that they implement Sharia, but they were running for general election. So in this regard, they will be running for power as well. It's competition.
It's to your credit, Professor Anwar, that you proclaim your friendship to America.
Yes.
But I'm sure that you want to support Indonesia first, not
Yes.
America.
Yeah.
And for that, I'm afraid your friendship with America may be a handicap because of what you have said about American foreign policy. That Muslims,
Yes.
rightly or wrongly, more rightly or wrongly, consider as the totally biased against them.
Yeah.
You remember ASE was also very proud of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
relations with the West. It didn't help them very much.
Yes. Yes.
So we don't want the same fate
Yeah.
as ASE for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
movement.
It's very interesting.
So this is one thing. I think that one would expect that Islam Liberal will look more to Indonesia than to America.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I'm not sure whether the Arabs look down at Indonesian Islam. I think that intellectuals in the Arab world recognize that they are in crisis. And a lot of them look to a country like Indonesia and Malaysia for a renewal, if you are capable of providing.
Yeah.
Until now, you haven't really
Yeah.
provided that much.
Yeah.
Lastly, I hope that McDonald's and
Kentucky
Fried Chicken are not going to face like and Migore.
Oh, yeah, very interesting. Yeah, well, I would suggest that I have to distinguish between American economy and Mr. Bush policy, frankly speaking. I totally disagree with Mr. Bush policy in the Middle East, Islamic world, etc. But I have a lot of friends American friends, American
No.
supporters. Yeah, but this is his problem. And then, of course, in this regard, yeah, I have to confess to my fellow Muslims that you have to distinguish between American foreign policy and American people. American people are very nice, very, very tolerant, respectful, etc. This is based on my own experience. When I was visiting, when I was visiting professor in Kansas, a lot of people coming to me and then discussing very frankly and very, very, respect to me. Even I got, key of the city from mayor of Kansas. This is very important for me. And my work in Kansas is, this is one of my hobby. You might believe it or not, is watching American country music. And also not song John Denver and then Johnny Cash, and then Johnny Cash and who else? Willie Nelson. I like so much. I love like so much.
Indonesians, they prefer keroncong.
Yeah, I like so much. John Denver. My favorite song is "Living in Jetline," and then Country Road, etc. I love country music very much. But my daughter, can you tell everything about Carrie Underwood? Because it's American Idol and of course very beautiful and of course very.
But I would say it's the same thing in Pakistan, where when I was in Pakistan visiting, many people like a lot of things about American pop culture.
Yes.
But that's very distinct from American foreign policy, which is very anti-Muslim,
That's good.
anti-Islam.
Yeah.
And so I think that's it. I see the same difficulty of how you would continue to sort of be.
Yeah, and we finished it. This question is about this question.
It's about that ideas on how to overcome the crisis in Islam from Indonesia and Malaysia or anywhere else.
We hope so. I hope you grant from Muslim countries, from Arabic countries, should respect our effort to promote the model. The problem lies in the fact that, especially from the conservative crusade, the dominant ideas come from from the radical conservative. For instance, from Ikhwan Muslim, and then Hizb ut-Tahrir, Jundullah, etc. And then a lot of books, the idea of Syed Qutb, Tahrir and Abadi, published into English language. To fight against radicalism. Thought that we have to distinguish between American democracy and American foreign policy. Totally agree with that. The problem lies in the fact that currently the world see America as anti-Islam, and this is because of the Mr. Bush administration. That's a problem actually, but it is very very important that according to the Pew Global research released in June, American people is more popular rather than American administration, American government. This is a research done by Pew Global Research. American people, why? Because American people, as far as I was very, tolerant and then friendly, etc., etc.
I think the question was,
Yeah.
if the foreign policy doesn't reflect also.
Yeah, of course. In this regard, I would suggest that, unfortunately, Mr. Kusko said his foreign policy is not only unpopular, but I do agree with Farid Zakaria, is totally fair. And then, of course, in this regard, not representing the spirit of democracy, as also disseminated by the previous administration, and more importantly, from my own perspective, against the spirit of American founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson. Because Thomas Jefferson, as far as I know, he even released this statement: "I will never allow my administration to be full with that." This is to be full with blood. Yeah. This is Thomas Jefferson, because he strongly believe in democracy, and we will never allow action done by this administration to create that set in the world.
But let me push the question a little bit. If the American people elect a successor to Bush who
Yes.
continues similar policies in the world,
Yes.
how hard will it be for you to continue with your pro-American stance, or will it shift to a more of a will it take the focus away from America and more onto general democratic principles without America being a leading proponent of those principles? I'm just wondering, what role does America actually play? Because it's possible. It seems unlikely now, but it's possible that the Americans will elect a president who will follow in the footsteps of George Bush and continue this kind of policy. It will be much harder to argue that.
Yes.
I mean, your point. And I'm just curious, looking forward into the future, how do you sustain a pro-American stance, or if that even is in your best interest?
Yeah, the first, of course, I will continue my perspective, my action, of course, to strongly criticize. But I will never ever committed to anti-Americanism, because anti-Americanism is, of course, they are the problem as well. But the problem lies in the fact that I strongly believe that even the American people themselves will judge the leaders based on the research done by global research. Now the support to Bush is 35%, and with regard to the result of general election, the previous general election, the Democrat win the election. And so I strongly believe, and I will rely on my dear brother, American people, to judge the leaders. And of course, because I could not interfere in this regard. As a Muslim, I will just reply a moral calling to our fellow brother of America: please select the best leader. Okay.
You better start now.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
First, as a State Department person here, let me first say that I think you would find strong support in the State Department for opening things like American cultural centers again, but it is a budget problem.
Yes.
The American corners are one of the things we're doing. We're also doing citizen dialogue, where we bring people to Indonesia or Indonesians to the United States, because it's actually a two-way street of lack of information. A lot of Americans don't really understand enough about Indonesia also. So bringing Americans over to Indonesia, and I've taken some two pesantren's to address the students there, and they had no idea. The Americans had no idea, and then of course the Indonesian students get to meet with the Americans also. And the sort of U.S. foreign policy being anti-Muslim, I just can't agree with it. The perception perception in a lot of the Muslim world is that it's anti-Muslim. I would not accept the proposition that our foreign policy is anti-Muslim. And I think our foreign policy toward Indonesia shows that as one of the most populous Muslim country, as the most populous Muslim country in the world. We certainly need to work on our perception. And one bit of information that I used to tell Indonesian audiences that they didn't often know, that we had a very leading person in the State Department who was a Muslim, who's now our UN ambassador.
Yes.
So just little bits of information like that sometimes can shock an audience. But my question to you, after saying all of that, if you look at a province like Aceh, the veranda of Mecca, and they have Sharia law given to them by Jakarta, and I have been told by many Acehnese that they don't want it.
Yes.
And in some ways they're considered maybe the most devout province of Indonesia. So I'm wondering if perhaps you could speak a little bit about the regional variation in Indonesia in terms of not just devoutness and radicalism, but also in terms of support for Sharia, but especially in terms of radicalism, I think would be most interesting.
Thank you. Very important question because you do understand the problem of Indonesia very well because you have left Indonesia, and then of course in this regard, I great appreciation to you. The first is that related to your perception, as you raised this kind of question. Of course, perception is also related to what I call as I said previously public policy. I would suggest the value of public policy. Why? Because you are unable to expand to people, including the real foreign policy. And of course, in this regard, I would suggest that public policy is not the solution of the problem. The most serious solution of the problem is that how to change the foreign policy itself. So public policy need a good policy. Public diplomacy need a good. Sorry, not public policy. Public diplomacy need a good policy. This is my impression. And of course, in this regard, generally speaking, according to the research done by Emerson Circle Survey Institute, that it's very weak public diplomacy, especially because even the media, Barack Obama is very important actually. But look, Indonesian people, they do not know about Barack Obama. Until Kompas is very published about Barack Obama, he lived in Indonesia. It's quite important to be disseminated, to share to Indonesian people. And Newsweek published about the success of American Muslim. It is very, very important to be translated into Indonesian language. That this is America. This is the way American people treat about Muslim. This is the prospect for American Muslim, etc. And generally speaking, American Muslim very moderate. This is very important. Unfortunately, you do not have USIS. Previously, it was USIS, which interpret and which translate that kind of information. This is
the Congress.
Yeah.
Back in the State Department.
Yes, the second point about Sharia is indeed right. And recently, Governor of Aceh, visited Washington, and he was asked by many people, how about Sharia, this bylaw of Sharia? He told the audience in front of the audience, my people of Aceh strongly disagree with Sharia.
And he says the same in Aceh too, which is very
Aceh,
good. Yeah.
Aceh. This is the reality. Why? Because based on previously I was a consultant of World Bank to conduct research on that kind of Sharia in Aceh. Majority of Aceh, disappointed with that kind of Sharia. This is because tend to be what we call injustice. Why? Because Aceh previously, the authority, the Ulama Council, arrested people who committed to have gambling. Gambling. The people were already arrested approximately 3 months. They did gambling about less than $5. But according to the Islamic law in Aceh, the people must be killed, and they did. The question is that justice? Is that in according with the Islamic law, etc.? The majority of people totally disagree because the gambler were already arrested. 3 months. Although just gambling for $5. That's what's the meaning of justice in Sharia actually. And the other problem is that in another cities, you know that currently it's approximately 50 cities, more than 50 cities implementing Sharia-based law. But the problem is that it's a project, what I call a project of capitalization of Sharia. What I mean with capitalization of Sharia is that because the region, the mayor, the governor, nothing to do with Sharia. Their background is, engineer, medical doctor, etc. Become, mayor, and then, a governor, and then region, etc. But they want to capitalize Sharia for the sake of their political interest. Why? Because this is...
Like in Indonesia, 50 cities in Indonesia?
Yes, 50 cities in Indonesia. 50 cities. Compared with, of course, 450 cities. Already 57. 50 and 57 from this. But the fact is that, now it's declining. Why? Because it tend to be capitalized for the sake of one political interest. For instance, just give you an example, in Tangerang, for instance, currently the situation in which the women were not allowed to especially in Tangerang is industrial area. The women standing, for instance, in bus stop, etc. The women were arrested, several women, by the authority of Aceh, not the authority of Tangerang.
Okay. In the evening. Right?
Yeah, after
the
the
law
change.
was that women should not be unaccompanied outside.
Yeah, because they could be judged as having committed to prostitution. But a lot of protests, and now it's declining. That kind of regulation, Sharia-based by law, done by Tangerang authority, declining. And then now the mayor were investigated because conducted corruption, including in Cianjur, etc., including the situation in the cities. According to I would suggest, and I would like to inform you that declining the Sharia. Why? Because people are much more realistic now, much more what they call clever in understanding Sharia. Nothing to do with the governor, the region, the mayor, etc., who just capitalize Sharia for the sake of their own political interest. For to be re-elected as governor, to be re-elected as mayor, to be re-elected as region, etc. Nothing to do, because when I asked, for instance, mayor of Padang, I asked him, what's the meaning of Sharia for you? Do you know the meaning of Sharia? No, I don't know. Sharia for me is practicing, just practice prayer, and then zakat, prayer, fasting, etc. That's Sharia. If that's so, it is unnecessary to implement Sharia based law, because we already done actually. Why, what I call as a take politicization and then formalization of Sharia into that kind of regulation? It's against our founding fathers' idea, against Indonesian Constitution, because Indonesian Constitution is not to be based on Sharia. And our founding fathers, in August 18, 1945, declared that Indonesia believed in one single God. Previously, they were sentenced with the obligation of the Muslim adherent to implement Sharia. That kind of seven words were deleted, and that's gentleman agreement. So in this regard, our founding father was totally right, because if we implement Sharia, I think Indonesia has become very, very complicated problem. Why? Because what's the meaning of Sharia? We just follow Pakistan, we just follow, say Bangladesh or any other Arab countries, will not be compatible with Indonesian spirit. Why? Because Islam came to Indonesia in 17th century, and not directly from the Arab peninsula, but through Gujarat. And Islam, when it came to Indonesia, had to deal with local culture, local wisdom, local religion. That's why there was a process of indigenization of Islam in Indonesia, which is much more moderate, much more pluralist compared to
Muslim in that of Middle East, because we deal with plural society. So they develop what I call Islamic missionary, not through what I call political approach to implement Sharia, to impose Sharia, but to cultural approach. Look, you still maintain Borobudur Temple, and for the Nahdlatul Ulama people, they're committed to what I call ritual and any other Islamic teaching which regard the legacy of Hinduism, commemoration of the people who already passed away, and respect to the grave, and Sufism, the spirit of Sufism. And our saint at the time developed Islamic propagation not through political approach, not by imposing Sharia, but by touching the heart of the people, approaching.
Do you have much interaction with American Muslims, and how is that interaction going? Because indigenous Islam in America is also a unique creation in a way. Not a unique creation, but it is in some ways, when you were talking about how Islam came to Indonesia, it reminded me of how Islam is realized here in America. And I wonder how much collaboration there are between Muslim communities in America and Indonesia.
I have a good relation with, for instance, Center for the Study of Islam and Democracy in DC, and then with ISNA, etc. And then a lot of and then the topic of your question is actually the topic of my next monograph. Actually, I would like to conduct a research, comparative study of what moderate Muslim in America and moderate Muslim in Indonesia, based on my engagement with American Muslim community, because not only communicating with the so-called Islamic organization, but also immigrant, Muslim, because I was living in New York in 1988 until 1989, and I saw the reality that people committed to Islamic activities is so happy, and then of course change their mindset, behavior from being what I call brutal. I mean, especially because the people in Bronx, Bronx, the slum area, I visited them.
Borough.
I visited them. We discussed with them. And then I found the reality that much more friendly, especially not what they call having, high tempo. No, because when we met them and they say Assalamualaikum, and then I pray at the mosque, and then very, very friendly, and of course very much. According to the Pew Progression released in June, American Muslim is much better rather than Muslim in the West, in the European, in some of integration with society. Compared to Muslim in Western Europe, this is serious and very, very greatly appreciated by Jewish people at the time. And then, of course, the other problem is that certain group of, say, called younger generation of American Muslim in America, strongly support suicide program. This is problem. Why? Well, there is process of self-radicalization. That's also taking place in Indonesia. Self-radicalization through the internet, through the discussions, etc. And all of those who refer to the U.S. foreign policy. This is reality based on research, of course. This is quite interesting to be observed, to be researched, to be observed actually. Compared to Indonesia, for instance. So self-radicalization is very, very serious problems. Why? Because it's very difficult to judge. It's very difficult to investigate self-radicalization. When through the internet, for instance, just give you an example. The perpetrator of Bali Bombe, Imam Samudra, previously is moderate. Indeed, is very moderate. Is engineer, has a good job, etc. But self-radicalization because of the internet. Internet. Yeah, internet. Internet is where you see the reality, the victims of war in Iraq, war, etc., etc. And yes, what I call literal and textual understanding of the meaning of jihad, and then narrow-mindedness because he doesn't understand that, for instance, fatwa from Saudi ulama, fatwa is a legal opinion, not legally binding in Islamic law, but it's just for this is fatwa from ulama in Saudi Arabia that suicide bombing is halal, etc. It's just for that kind of fatwa. That's what I call self-radicalization, and it's very, very problematic, and of course, it's very interesting to be observed further. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for this enlightening talk. I should mention perhaps that there may be more talks in the future at the cross-cutting religion and politics, because Dean Rauschenbusch and the director of the Liechtenstein Institute have just launched a new initiative on religion and international affairs. And I presume if you were interested about information of the program, you could consult with Dean Rauschenbusch here. Professor Anwar has been in the US for 3 months and will leave on Monday, unfortunately, back to Indonesia. We wish you a good trip and a successful continuation of your important work within the country. And also we look forward to reading your publications in the coming year. Thank you very much.
Happy trails.